everybody. I think we're going to get started here. Hopefully everybody is properly connected and can see the presentation. So thank you everybody for joining us for this short session about transforming machine data into IT and business insights. My name is Bruno Kurtek. I'm the founding VP of Product and Strategy at SumoLogic, and I'm joined here by Kyle Furhan, who is our senior sales engineer who will show you a short demo of our product. For those of you who are new to SumoLogic, we are a Silicon Valley-based software startup that was founded by experts in the log analysis, big data, and IT infrastructure talent, and we are backed by top-tier VC here in the Silicon Valley, Greylock Partners and Sutter Hill Ventures. We founded the company with a vision to improve how businesses use machine data to deliver IT and business insights, and then use those insights to improve application and infrastructure operations. We do that by delivering a secure, reliable, cloud-based service. So let's talk a little bit about data. There's a data explosion that's occurring today within enterprises. And there are many ways of looking at data and breaking it down. I'd like to start today by breaking it down into human-generated data, which is essentially data that was generated by human activity, things like documents, videos, transactions, and things like that, which is growing at a pretty high pace of speed, which is at about 20% a year. And machine-generated data, which is data essentially generated by your IT infrastructure, by machines, by your servers, by your networks. Every time a person clicks a link on a website, that activity, the single click, generates hundreds of records of data inside of your IT infrastructure. And machine data is the largest and the fastest growing and the most complex segment of big data, and it's growing at about a 3x speed of the human-generated data. So let's talk a little bit about how that machine data can be used today to deliver IT and business insights. The first way to leverage machine data is really to leverage it for troubleshooting research. If you can get your hands on this data in real time and be able to analyze this data to find root causes of issues that you're experiencing in your IT infrastructure, you can significantly reduce your mean time to identification and resolution of issues, which means that you can lower that time it takes you to fix problems and make sure that your systems, applications, and infrastructure that your business uses on a daily basis is up and running as soon as it experiences an issue. Another way to use the data in real time is to actually set up proactive monitoring. This allows you to switch from the mode of fighting fires and reacting to issues to getting proactive and being able to look at this data in real time, detect trends, see that, for example, your latencies and your network response times are going up, and before you ever hit that point where those latencies become too large and your application starts failing, you can get ahead of the problem, resolve it, and ultimately improve SLAs both to your customers and to your internal users. And the final way to leverage machine data is to actually drive business insights. Machine data contains a tremendous amount of useful information about how your business is performing. Your application data can tell you, how many users you have, what the growth of those users is, what transaction values they're sending to you through the system, how well your infrastructure is performing, if you're over-provisioned, under-provisioned. So you can really mine this data for insights that can help you lower costs, improve your customer satisfaction, improve your top line, and various other things. And you can do this in real time, so you can start making decisions as soon as things start to change in your infrastructure, rather than having to get this data extracted, load into various data warehouses, and then react to this data with 3 months or more lag time. So these are all the ways, and probably many others, that you can leverage this data. Let's talk a little bit about this data actually. What is it, and where do you find it, and what do you do with it? So machine data is logs and many other types of data, performance data, machine data, log data, audit data, what have you. And it comes from your entire IT infrastructure stack. It starts at the top with sort of the most important things in your infrastructure, your applications, the custom applications that were written for you to do your business, whether you serve your customers with these with these applications, or you facilitate internal business processes with these applications. All of those applications generate data, log data and machine data. Also, it doesn't stop there. It goes deeper down into your infrastructure. So all of the components that you use to build these applications, your open source components like Hadoop, HDFS, Cassandra, MySQL, middleware, application servers, databases that support that application also generate critical data that tells you things about how that application is performing and operating. But it doesn't stop there. It goes deeper. It goes into your servers that are running this application code and these components that support your application. It goes into your virtualization layer that helps you provision these servers and virtual hardware that helps run these operating systems. And then further, it even goes into your network and even security infrastructure that helps support the data flow between applications and you and your customers. It also comes in a tremendous variety of types, right? Every single one of these devices has its own language, its own structure, and its own way of conveying information about what's going on with these infrastructure components. We talk about log data in terms of or machine data and the big data in terms of 3Ds. It has a huge variety, huge number of flavors of that data, huge velocity, which is it comes at you very, very fast, and you need to be able to deal with it in real time. And the third V is the volume. This data doesn't get stale right away. This data needs to be kept for a certain amount of time, and you need to manage large volumes of data over long periods of time, sometimes up to a year or more. So the 3Ds make this data set very difficult to manage and leverage. But it can tell you some very, very important things, so it's worthwhile actually spending some time trying to get a handle on this data set. So what are the things, some of the things that it can tell you and why it's so powerful is that it can tell you, if you have the right set of tools and capabilities to look into this data, it can tell you things that, such as the example that I'm showing here, that you can trace an issue that was started by a user or a customer of yours on your website, initiating a purchase on your web application, and you can find very quickly that the reason why the transaction has failed is because all the way down deep into the stack, the operating system decided that it was running out of memory, and a process actually died. A database process in this case, which essentially supports this application and the transaction processing. Okay? So, as I hope that makes sort of evidence of how critical it is to get a view of this data, and you can understand how much, if you can quickly tell what's going on with this particular issue, how quickly you can react to it, and how much shorter time for you to identify. And looking for these things in a manual way by searching through log files on your own, hopping from machine to machine to find what actually caused that, could actually cost you hours of time. And while you could be fixing the problem and bringing up your systems for your customers, while you're doing that analysis in a manual way, hundreds of other users are experiencing the same issue, and your top line is suffering because they're not able to process transactions on your site. Okay? All right, let's talk a little bit about what SumoLogic can do for you here. This is where we come in. SumoLogic can collect all of this data. Let's talk again about the 3Ds. SumoLogic collects, let's talk about the first D, the variety. We collect all of the data that's emitted by your infrastructure. It doesn't matter to us what format it is. We don't have to parse it. We collect it all and instantly can make that data useful. We help you with the velocity of that data by having a real-time collection capability that allows you to essentially collect this data in real time and process it and make it available for analysis. And the third way that we deal with the third way is that we can handle a tremendous amount of volume of this data because we have a highly scalable backend that can grow with you and your data set and really absorb all of the shocks of huge volume spikes and data spikes. We take this data and we sort of think of this data on the left as the chaos of IT infrastructure, and we turn it into something that can actually help you make business decisions and IT decisions in real time. So we take the chaos and we turn it into something that's very, very useful and can be leveraged to improve your business. All right, talk a little bit about why can we do this and what's different about SumoLogic. So number one, it's a pure cloud-based service. We run the entire service for you. There's nothing to deploy. There's no hardware to purchase. The only thing to deploy actually is a small footprint collector that I'll talk about in a little bit. So it's simple and can be brought up and started very, very quickly. The next thing is the elastic log processing, which is a patent-pending technology that's been built, which gives you all the horsepower to process any amount, any volume of data that you have. So you can start small, and in a couple of days you can increase your data volumes by 10x, and we can handle that completely seamlessly to you. We have something we call a log reduce. It's another patent-pending technology that essentially allows you to reduce the noise of this data and really help you deliver meaningful analytics out of this data. Being able to connect the dots from the user transaction all the way down into your server or virtualization layer to identify that one issue, or being able to really quickly extract performance metrics from your infrastructure and understand how that performance is working for you and for your application. And then finally, I mentioned this before, but we do this in real time. Every single step in the process with SumoLogic is done in real time. We collect data in real time. As soon as an event happens in your infrastructure, we collect it. We stream it in real time into our service. We process it in real time, and we make it available for analysis in real time. So that you don't have to have long latencies between when something occurs and how quickly you can react to it. An event that signals a failure in your infrastructure is immediately visible in your analytics, which means that there is no 5, 10, 20 an hour lag time between the time that you can see what's going on and try to fix it. And then let's talk a little bit about the architecture. So SumoLogic is a cloud-based service. It can be deployed across any type of infrastructure that you have in your enterprises. It can be deployed in your primary data centers or in your remote offices. It can be deployed, within acquisitions that you've made. It can be deployed in private cloud environments. It can be deployed inside of your, public cloud deployments, such as AWS, Rackspace, or any other. So we collect data from all of those, and we deliver to you an application that's purely web-based application. So you can access it from anywhere. You can access it from within your enterprise. You can access it from home, from on the road. No matter where you are, when something important happens, you have the handle on that data in order to try to fix it. And the only thing that you install inside or near your infrastructure is a collector. A collector component, and Kyle will talk a little bit more about that. Its job is to essentially absorb shocks of network failures. For example, if something happens to your network access between you and us, the collector will continue collecting data and be able to continue sending that data after the network comes back up. It encrypts the data so that everything is encrypted in transit and at rest. And it compresses the data so it minimizes your network bandwidth. So that's how we deploy. It can be deployed in minutes. And we have many customers who have done so in production environments. And I think I'm going to turn it over to Kyle right now to show you a quick demo of the process. Let me just turn over control. Okay, Kyle, you should have the control.
Great, thanks, Bruno. All right, good stuff. So today what I'm going to show you is basically a demonstration of everything that Bruno was explaining, a way to take an application or a service and monitor it, proactively monitor it, and troubleshoot a problem that occurs on it. And for today's demo, we're going to be taking a look at a service that provides a stock trading service. And basically, this is very much like an E-Trade or some other type of application where it allows users to log in, and this is the user's perspective here, where they can log into their account, take a look at their portfolio, and buy and sell stocks as they would like. Okay. So again, from the user's perspective, this is a kind of a standalone application. But really, in the background, the stock trader app is a multi-tiered application running on several different systems and databases and distributed across a network and connected through network devices. So what we'd like to do is, okay, this is great from a user's perspective, but what if you were a business owner of this website and you wanted to, you're great, you've got the service that you're providing, but you'd like to get some metrics around how the service is operating, is it healthy, probably more importantly, how much money is it making for you? And then if you look at another perspective, instead of the owner's perspective, but maybe an operations person's perspective, you'd like to be tracking how well the system is performing, what the response time is, and how responsive and snappy is the application working. So in order to get that kind of information, that's where you need a SumoLogic solution. So basically, let's take a look at that, kind of an overview or review of what Bruno had just covered. So to get SumoLogic in this particular use case, in the stock trader demonstration, basically you need to install what Bruno already described as a collector, and it's that shock absorber between yourself and the network. But the other responsibilities of this collector are to acquire or consume machine data, compress it, encrypt it, and send it to the cloud. And that way you can securely acquire your logs, and then you can transport them securely up into our cloud as well. And the collector itself is a small footprint Java program that you would install on a variety of different platforms, Windows, Mac, Linux. And again, its main responsibility is to just grab, consume logs, and get them securely sent up into the cloud. One of the nice things that we have figured out with the shock absorber thing is that we are able to cache the file locally in case the connection goes down. Plus, before we send it up into the cloud, we compress it. So for those of you out there that are worried about bandwidth sending to the cloud, we got about a 10x compression. So if you're sending 100 gigs, that's just 10 gigs that will be sent up per day. Okay, so that's the main component that you guys would need to download and install. The second component is you don't have to worry about it. We maintain it. It's our service, which runs in the cloud. And this is where all of the logs will be received. They'll be stored securely, encrypted. They'll be indexed, and analytics will be run on them so that you then can use the third component, which is your application, to access the cloud service, the Sumo service, so you can go in and slice and dice your logs. You can set up reports, or you can set up alerts. You can set up dashboards, and you can set up proactive monitoring of your application data or any of your log or machine data. Right. So if I kind of overlay these components on top of this stock trader app, which I'm about to demo, this is what it would look like, where you've got all of these different tiers to the application. You've got the application itself, which is being served out of IIS. To handle your stock trades and to maintain your portfolio, you have a Microsoft SQL database. And then connecting all those components together, you're going to have these routers, switches, and firewalls. So in order to get the telemetry data and to do proactive monitoring of this application, you want to make sure that you're collecting logs from all of the components in the stock trader application, and that's what we've got here. We've got collectors pulling from local files, we've got pulling them from local database files, and then we have syslog data coming in from our firewalls and switches. All right, so if I take you over to the Sumo interface, the main page here is just showing status, how many logs have been collected over time. But really what you wanted to do is ensure that the stock trader app logs are getting collected in. So if I hop over to my collectors tab, and what I'll do is I'll focus in on the stock trader collector, you can see that for all these components I had over here in the slide, there's a rule over here that says go in and grab these log files. And we are also able to categorize the logs, so when we pull them in, we're going to tag them each with this source category, so we associate them all with one application, and we're going to use that in just a second. Okay. So the good news is the logs are coming in, so we're going to be able to get some analytics. Let's put on the hat of our business owner at this point. So the business owner probably doesn't care about the chaos, does not care about the bits and bytes, but he does care about how the service is performing, who's using it, and how much money it's generating. So for that, you can generate a executive dashboard for business users that when you pull it up will give you these 6 dashboards that give you immediate information about how your business is doing on these monitors. So this first one here, you've got basically revenue over the past hour. You can see real-time activity activity, who's buying and selling stocks. You can see the top 10 stocks that are selling, the top 10 that are being purchased, and then of course your top customers here, the ones who are buying and selling the most. So this is very, very useful information, and these dashboards are hot clickable. So if you want to highlight something and let's say see why this thing kind of started going up, you can click on the data point, and what that does, it goes into the detail mode over on our interface and shows you the detailed information hour by hour, minute by minute as to how much money you're making over time. So if the executive wants to get into that level of detail, she can just go ahead and click on it and bring up the view and get into this summary report. If they want to go even deeper, if they want to actually get into the bits and the bytes of it, they can go over here to this messages tab and kind of see where what the raw log looked like when it came in. So, but if you think about this, looking at this data right here, I don't think many executives would really make much sense of it. But if you flip back over to the dashboard and you can visualize the data using our tool and our service, I think that provides a very valuable service, and it gives you, like I said, kind of on-the-fly visibility into how your business is doing. Okay. All right, so let's switch gears one more time. Let's put it on a different hat now. Let's put on the hat of someone who probably, like most of you out there, have to be in charge of keeping this thing running. So let's put on our operations hat. So for the operations folks, I created a dashboard for them as well. And let's just take a quick look at it real quick, and then we'll go through some application troubleshooting. So if I go to the performance, you can see that these graphs are different than the executive graphs. These are showing more detailed information about my application. Specifically here, you're seeing things like response time from the application. And we're able to color code these values, so if it's lower than 250, it's showing up as green. If it goes above, it's yellow. If it goes above 1,000 milliseconds, it's going to go up as red. So this gives you immediate information about how your application is running. You also have, you can see the page hits, the most frequently hit pages. You can see who's logging in, who's failing to log in. You can see kind of exceptions that have happened in your application, and then any 404 errors, files that are being looked for that aren't there. And generally, on a good day, this should be all green. Okay, so if I'm the operations guy and I got here promptly at 8 o'clock to start my shift, one of the first things that I'll do is I'll go in and I'll check in on my email. And in this case, basically, I just want to run you through a use case where you actually detected, SumoLogic is going to be detecting a problem, and we're going to solve it for you here. So if I look in on my email, I see something where looks like there's a sell order has failed to execute, and that's something that should not happen. So as a good operations guy and a troubleshooter, what you want to do is I want to go in and test this thing out for myself. So what I'll do is I'll go back in, I'll log into my stock trader, I'll log in, and I'll try to do a sell myself. So let's go to my portfolio, and let's try to sell 100 shares of a stock. Okay, so that seems to be working okay. Let's go ahead and try to buy something now. Try to buy. Okay, so things seem to be working okay at the moment. So what we'll do is go back here to the dashboard and take a look at things, and it seems to be going okay. But what I'll do is, like, that email came in at 10 o'clock in the morning. Maybe something has been fixed. So what I'll do now is I'll say, you know what? This looks like there was some sort of timeout problem with this sell order. So if I actually go back in time to 10 o'clock, let's do like the last 3 hours, and what I'll do is I'll look for that timeout error message. Let's see what we find. Well, there's a little bit here and there, but then around 9 and 10 o'clock, we see this really big spike. So what we might want to do now is say, okay, let's go ahead and click on the beginning of that spike and see what happened around that time. So if I click on the spike here, which is around 9:10, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say, show me all the data that happened with around 5 minutes plus or minus this time. So if I click on that, basically you'll get your messaging context, so all of the events that happened around it, And now what I want to do is, this is just too much to look at. So what I want to do now is I'm going to take this data and pass it into our log reduce engine. And this is what Bruno talked about before, the ability to collapse hundreds of pages of log data into a single page or two. And the output of this, as it builds, I'll tell you about it, is basically you'll see clusters. So the summarize operator goes out, finds logs that look the same or similar, and tries to group them in the same cluster, essentially collapsing the data into like messages. So you won't see hundreds of lines. You'll see something like there's 1,300 messages that look something like this. So you're able to just in a single page or so kind of scroll through all of the things that all of the logs in one page. All right, so if you call your attention down to Lucky 13 here on this row, one of the things that you'll see is that right around this time period, right around when I started seeing my timeout, there was this PIX firewall rule that was created. And it says here, user PIX admin executed a command adding an access list to deny this 10, which is my private address space, on these port ranges. And if I go back to my PowerPoint here, you'll see that these components here are all connected to one another using infrastructure equipment. And then it appears that in this case, somebody out on the Cisco side has put in an ACL that's blocking one component, maybe the IIS system, from talking to the back end. So this just kind of shows you real quick how you can use, you can go from basically dashboard into the detailed view. You can use the summarization capabilities to boil down all of these error messages that you're seeing around a certain time to help you locate the one needle in the haystack message that tells you why everything stopped working at 10 o'clock. Okay, so again, just the different use cases there. I mean, as Bruno mentioned earlier, this definitely helps with the MTTI, how fast you can find the root cause of the problem, because you have a unified system that carries all of your logs that you can search through. And we give you tools like log reduce that allow you to boil down that data into a much smaller subset of information. At the top level, you guys may have noticed, when I click on some of these dashboards, these queries would be run over here. This query language is great for folks that want to go in and just slice and dice their own data, create their own reports. But you also have this top-level view for your executives or just for your stock, so you can see at a glance, how your application is running and how much revenue you're pulling in. So that's just a quick spin through it. But there's a lot more to the product. You guys, when you go and do your free trial, there's a full documentation on the query language and how to do all the reports and everything like that. And of course, we're always here to help set you up with that as well. So that's what I have for that.
All right, great. Thanks, Kyle. Well, just to wrap up before we go here into Q&A, I wanted to just share a little bit of our current customers. We have many customers currently using us for their production systems, both infrastructure as well as applications, and in many cases for both, across a variety of industries, public companies, privately held companies, and what have you. Next slide, please. I want to talk a little bit in more details about one of our early customers, a company called Uyala. They are an online video and analytics company. They serve large media players and other companies that deal with video, such as ESPN, Miramax, Virgin Media, and others. They use us across both of their cloud and data center deployments to essentially do high-speed troubleshooting and monitoring of their infrastructure. They serve their customers in real time, and they deliver video to their online properties and other services. And for them, it's very critical to have a system that can tolerate huge spikes in data volumes, that can in real time find faults and errors in the infrastructure and proactively look for issues before they actually affect their customers, right? So they use us. They've been using us for more than a year now, and they're big proponents of our solutions. Sean Mapp is the founder and CTO. He's a big fan of SumoLogic, and I'm sure he'd be happy to talk to any one of you if you have interest in that. Okay, and That's basically it. That's all I had for today. Just as a reminder, we're cloud-based from the ground up. We can scale to ingest any volume of data. We provide real-time application troubleshooting, monitoring, and analytics. We do have a SumoLogic free offering that we have launched a few months back that allows you to essentially, without talking to anybody at SumoLogic, try this out. You can go to our website, sign up, and in about 30 seconds we'll have an account of your own that has some limitations in amount of data that you can process, but has all the features and capabilities that we have in the product. So you can get that going, try it out, and we're here to help. It gives you free support, and if you're having any questions or would like to talk to some of us, like Kyle and somebody else, we'd happily connect and help you guys out on setting it up. That's it. I would like to now take it to the Q&A and see if you guys have any questions that we can ask.
Okay, we have our first question come in. The first question is around pricing. And the question is essentially, how do we price the SumoLogic service for our customers?
That's a great question. So we price based on the total volume of data that we manage for you. This data frequently is generated in large volumes in a single day. So let's talk about a scenario of 10, 20 gigabytes of data per day, and then it depends on how long you need to keep it. So let's say you need to keep it for 30 days. Those two variables produce a total volume of data that we manage for you, and that turns into a price. The best way to find out a little bit more detail about our pricing is to go on our website. We're very transparent. We have nothing to hide. Our pricing is on the website. Please go click on the product section and click on pricing, and they'll give you some sample pricing options and give you a sense of how much the solution costs. Again, it does not include, with SumoLogic, you don't have to buy any hardware, hire any employees to manage the solution. So what you pay is all you pay. There is no hidden cost, and your total cost of ownership is pretty transparent.
The second question that's coming is around bandwidth utilization. And the question is, since you guys are collecting log data and sending it to the cloud, how do we manage bandwidth utilization for our customers?
It's another great question. As I alluded earlier in the discussion, bandwidth is a frequent question we get from our customers. One of the reasons why we have the collector component, which again is an agent that lives inside of the infrastructure, but it collects data in agentless mode, so it can collect data from remote machines, from hundreds of endpoints. You don't have to install one on every machine. What collector does is it compresses this data at a rate of about 10x. And so if you talk about how much data does flow, let's talk about a pretty good-sized customer. Let's say talk about 100 gigabytes of data per day. Typically, that comes from more than one physical location, whether it's in the cloud or in a data center. So let's just say it comes from two or three data centers. So that means that each data center is sending about 20, 30 gigabytes of data per day. Compress that by 10x, which what collector does, now you're talking about 2 to 3 gigabytes of data per day, which is really not very significant in terms of volume. So typically, our customers don't even notice the difference when we collect data. So we manage it. We dramatically reduce the footprint of data as being pretty good.
Okay. There's a couple of questions on security, and the question is, how do we secure data that's sent up to our service?
Okay. So again, another great way to find out about how we do this is to go to our website and take a look at our security white paper. It's the first document we wrote before the company was even launched to the public. We secure data. We have a maniacal focus on data privacy and data security. We have data when it leaves your infrastructure. Again, the collector is key. Collector will encrypt that data before it sends it. We encrypt data in every backend store that we have in the cloud. The data is encrypted by unique keys generated for you, for each customer individually, so that there is no crosstalk. Those keys rotate at a high rate of frequency, so that we constantly generate new keys, so that the data is encrypted with different set of encryption keys to protect it even further. There is no one key that will unlock all of your data. So we also employ many security-conscious processes in how we protect our production systems from access, even from internal employees. we are going through, we run in a SOC 2 and PCI physical location, so certified, and we are going through certification for SOC 2 and PCI ourselves for all our internal processes. So we take care of your data, and if you have more questions about nitty-gritty details, please feel free to download that white paper and take a look.
Okay. And there's one last question that's come in, and that question is essentially, how would we characterize differentiators between a cloud-based approach and an on-premise approach?
Okay. So the first thing, that cloud-based approach enables you to get up and running with a solution like this essentially in a few minutes to a couple of hours versus what it might take you, weeks, maybe even months with an on-premise system. This is a very, very large data set. So when you're deploying a system on-premise that will manage the data set, it requires you to install multiple pieces of hardware, wire together multiple pieces of software components. Sometimes appliances are involved, and it's very hard to get this going, and it's all on you to get it going. Frequently requires a lot of professional services. With a cloud-based solution, you deploy a collector, and you start sending the data, and you're ready. The other way that it's different, it dramatically reduces your total cost of ownership because we operate the system. You get new software upgrades instantly, transparently to you. You don't have to do any management or upgrading. Third, it absorbs shock. It collects the data at no matter what volume it comes in. So with an on-premise solution, you have to provision for the peak. So let's say that you are a retailer, for example, and you have high seasonality in your business. So, during the first 10 months of the year, you're running at, 200 gigabytes of data per day, and then when it comes to Christmas and holiday season, your infrastructure spikes to 5x that, and you're now at a terabyte per day. What you need to do in that case is you need to provision the full infrastructure for that peak, and you have to be ready. And what's happening is 80% of the time you're running idle, and you're basically spent a lot of money on systems that are just running idle. And if you need to scale up and increase the capacity, you need to add machines, do more professional services to wire this up, and again, with SumoLogic, you just turn on the faucet, and we absorb that shock. There's, on our back end, everything scales elastically. So that's it. And then the final reason why we're different in an on-premise system is once you get the data into a single place, we can build analytics at scale. Our systems and our algorithms learn from all of the infrastructure that we monitor, and you get benefits from that. So we can find common issues across similar components across multiple customers. Without sharing any data, you get essentially, you get the global knowledge of SumoLogic and what you need to pay attention to with your infrastructure based on the fact that we see all of the data from all the infrastructure that we manage.
Okay. Another question has come in the chat window, and that question is around dashboards. And the question is essentially, since every application service is different, how are dashboards built in SumoLogic?
Yeah, that's a great question. Obviously in the demo you saw the dashboards, but you didn't see everything that went on behind the scenes. What I'll show you here is that one of the most fantastic things I think about our product is that you don't need to have, we don't have any canned parser. We don't have these parsing rules that have to be met. What you can do is you can kind of create your own slicing and the dicing of the log and have it create any kind of schema or any kind of columns or any kind of data that you want. And in this case here, I've got I've got this this raw log application, this raw log file here, and I'm telling it to parse and create these fields using this syntax language that I have here. And if you go to our support site, there's a couple of videos that talk a lot about how to get started with the basics of writing these parsing commands. But at the end of the day, you tell the system how you want to chop up the log, and once you've got those logs into a table format, you can then view them in a variety of different visualizations. And then if you want to promote it up and add it to a dashboard, you just hit this button here, and that'll take this and move it up to a dashboard. So it's basically you write the query, you have it parse out the data you want, then you promote it as a dashboard, and then it'll start showing up over here.
The other way to do this is basically you can use some of our pre-canned dashboards. So if you don't mind showing it, we have we have dashboards that come out of the box with the system. We just recently launched a VMware solution at the VMworld show that basically comes with a pre-baked dashboard that helps you manage your virtualization infrastructure. And we have many other components that we ship common content for out of the box. Okay.
Well, that looks like that's it for the Q&A. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat window now. Otherwise, you have our contact information. Feel free to email us at any time at sales@SumoLogic.com, and we'll be happy to immediately reply with any response back to you. Otherwise, thank you for attending our webinar today. We hope you found it interesting and informative. Again, if you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to contact us, sales@SumoLogic.com, and we'll put you in touch immediately and get you any additional information or answers to your questions. Thank you again, and please enjoy the rest of your day.